Good morning to all of my friends in Australasia. I can see most of you. I don't have a camera with my computer, which, by the way, suits me just fine because I have a radio face. So this works just fine for me. Well, this morning, what we're going to do is to talk about Manitech's flagship technology, and a technology which I feel is the most important technology that has yet been discovered in the area of nutrition or nutritional biochemistry. And I'm going to give you some of the basics on what's in it and why we put it together the way we have. I will, as Sinead has already alluded to, those of you who know me, you know that I try as hard as I can to avoid complex science. And where I am forced to use complex science, I will then explain it to you in simple language, because no matter what we have, no matter what the technology is, if you are not able to effectively and clearly communicate to your friends and your new potential customers what the technology is and what it does, then you, of course, will fail in your goal of trying to improve the health of people all over the planet with our products. So I'm going to keep things as simple as I possibly can. Occasionally, I'm going to hit a word or two, but we will explain those to you as we go along. And my purpose is twofold: obviously, education of current associates, but also this is so important for all of you, because our mission at Manitech is to extend the number of people on planet Earth who can benefit from our technologies. And the most important technology, as I've already stated, is Ambrotose. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background here, and I'll give you some particulars, and I'll also address the most frequently asked questions that I get in my travels around the planet regarding Ambrotose and regarding glyconutrients in general. Well, you know, Manitech has spent in excess of 50 million US dollars on scientific research. Now, folks, I don't know how many of you realize what that really means in terms of real research. What counts for me is what you can prove scientifically. So there are things that you can talk about and make a big deal about. And in the legal field, they have a term that they use called puffery. And that, you know, I guess you're supposed to picture somebody all puffed up, all full of themselves, and talking about how they're the greatest, they're the best. Well, that's called puffery. Puffery is when you actually have no scientific facts to prove what you say, but you say it so well that people buy your products because, well, they fall for it, I guess. It would be the best way to say it. Well, Manitech really is the science company. I always say that, and I say that because we haven't just spent more money than any other company I know of in the history of our industry, but we've spent tens of millions more dollars than any other company ever even thought of. So we really are the science company. And when I bring you information, and when Manitech gives you information in their literature, this is based on scientific fact, not puffery or not really clever advertising and really clever marketing. So let's talk about science. Well, the science behind what is known as nutritional glycobiology is still relatively new, believe it or not. It was in the middle 60s that research began on plant-based glycans. Now, glycan is the scientific term which describes a plant saccharide, which in most cases is good for your health. There are a couple of them which are not, and I'll cover those in a few minutes. So the scientific term is glycan, and the commercial term is glyconutrient, but both of those words are describing the same thing. Well, back in the 60s, scientists began to discover that besides vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and amino acids, there were these things inside of, it appears, all living things. Now, I say it that way because as a scientist, I don't want to speak in absolutes, except in those cases where it's absolutely irrefutably known. Well, Every living thing on this planet has not been researched yet, so I can't tell you every living thing. But I
Mhm.
think it's highly probable that it's every living thing, because thus far, every living thing that has been tested has these glycans inside of them. And the glycans perform the same types of functions inside of every living thing. Everything that's alive has to have something called cellular communication, because the cells, I mean, it's not magic in your body. It's science. I don't know. I have to tell you, the more science I learn, sometimes the more it seems like magic, really. When you look at how a human body functions, it's just astounding. It's almost beyond comprehension, no matter how good our science gets. Well, these glycans, or what are called glyconutrients commercially, by the way, the word glyconutrient was actually invented by Manitech back in 1996. But nobody had the foresight to trademark or copyright that word, I'm sorry to say, so everybody uses the term now. Regardless, these glycans are found in all plants, and all plants have to have their cells communicate, just like animals, mammals, birds, you name it, all living things have to have cellular communication. Now, let me put this in a little bit different terms, a little more focused for you. Let's say, as an example, that your body suddenly found itself with an unwanted visitor. And this unwanted visitor, let's say it was a bacteria that didn't belong in your body. We won't talk about how it got there and all that, because there isn't time for that. But what we want to talk about is what your body does when this occurs. The human body is, as far as I'm concerned, the most amazing organic machine that was ever created. And in your body, you have trillions of cells, different cells doing different things. You have different organs that have different responsibilities, and so on. Within your immune system, you have a type of cell, and for simplicity's sake, because I know if I use scientific terminology, most people will not remember the terms. And what is important here is not for any of you to be scientists. What is important is for you to be able to convey the information accurately so that people understand it, okay? So let's refer to these cells not by their scientific name, but let's call them scout cells, so that their job is to patrol your bloodstream 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and to look for things that do not belong in you. Well, these scout cells, for the purpose of our scenario, they have just discovered this bacteria which has entered your body, and in this case, it's a bacteria that should not be there, and it's potentially harmful to you. So now they have to send a cellular communication to immune system headquarters to alert the general in command at immune system headquarters that your body has in fact been invaded by an unfriendly force, and we now need the soldier cells to respond to this, to go after this new invasion of bacteria and destroy it. But it's even more complicated than that, because your scout cells have to be able to identify what these things are and then send a communication which specifically says, yes, these are bacteria, they are unfriendly, they are potentially harmful to us, and they look just like this. Now, that communication, you think about how many steps of communication that just was. And that communication going to the commanding general of the immune system, he now has to send that communication to the commander of the soldier cells, and the commander of the soldier cells has to send that communication to all of the soldier cells so that they all know what they're going after, what it looks like, where it's at, and they're also going to have to know what kind of weapons they need to use to be rid of it to keep you healthy and make sure they don't damage you in any way. Now, it's a lot more complicated than that, a lot more complicated. But that's just the basics of it. In order for your immune system to respond to that simple challenge, there are all these communication steps. The communication is facilitated through glycans. Now, if you read the scientific literature, and I don't want to dwell on this because I don't want to confuse people and have things that you try to remember but perhaps won't be able to remember when you're telling your new potential customer about this. So what they are is glycoproteins, and glyco, of course, referring to saccharides or sugars, and I'll explain the difference between the sugars in a few moments. And so these glycoproteins, so it's a protein amino acid that finds a specific glycan or glyconutrient and bonds to this, forming a new type of molecule, which is now called a glycoprotein. It is then and only then, under no other circumstances except this, will your body have an accurate and effective communication from one cell to another. So then, obviously the amino acids need to be present, but the scientific studies these days are telling us that human beings are very rarely short on amino acids that they need for this purpose. It's extremely rare. Whereas on the other hand, scientific study is showing us that it is quite common for human beings these days to have too little of the glycans or glyconutrients that they require for cellular communication. In fact, one study showed us that in the modern diet, and that's what we eat today, folks, the modern diet, that there are 2 of a group of necessary 8 glyconutrients for cellular communication, which are available in adequate amounts for just about everybody planet-wide. 2 of 8. Now with the other 6, now this is hit and miss. So different people are getting different amounts at different times from different foods on different days. This is not a good thing, folks. In our ancestral diet, which of course we don't eat that anymore, we are no longer hunter-gatherers, our diets are far more limited than we were as hunter-gatherers, our ancestors were. And remember, our ancestors ate to survive, whereas we, although technically we eat to survive, we also really focus our choices on things that we enjoy and things that are fun, which are often things that are not healthy and are often things that do not supply us with sufficient nutrition in a lot of different categories, not just glycans or glyconutrients. We know that there are more than 200 glyconutrients or plant glycans that have been cataloged by science thus far. There may be many more, but right now we know of just over 200. Of these 200, there are only a couple that are bad for you. All the rest are actually very good for you. The ones that are bad for you taste very sweet, and we often refer to them as table sugar. And the ones that are good for you, with a couple of exceptions, have no sweetness at all. In fact, most of them don't taste very good at all. Because when we say plant saccharide, saccharide is the scientific term for sugar, and we normally think of sugar as a sweet thing, but it's kind of like using the word acid. They're acids which are essential to your life, where if you don't have them, you literally will get sick and die. And they're acids that can kill you. So we mustn't think in terms of absolutes and say, oh, all acids are bad and all sugars are bad and so on and so forth, because that's not the way it works in science, all right? So in science, you have the sort of like a giant overall umbrella classification, and then you have your subgroups below it, and scientists can then identify which ones are good for you, which ones are bad for you. So when it comes to plant saccharides, or plant sugars, if you will, there are a couple of them that are really bad for your health. You should really avoid them, but of course, almost no one will. Even though you're told to avoid them, you do it anyway. And then, of course, there are prepared foods that contain sugars even when we didn't ask for them, which are bad for your health. Although there are pretty few prepared foods that contain sugars that are good for your health, very few. So understand you can do the simple taste test on the glycans or glyconutrients, which are found in our product called Ambrotose. And you put it on your tongue, you taste, and you go, wow, that's not table sugar. That's right. It's definitely not table sugar. definitely not bad for you. In fact, we did a human double-blind placebo-controlled study in which we gave 4 grams, which is the current daily recommendation of Ambrotose for everyone using Ambrotose around the world. And we gave each of these human volunteers 4 grams of Ambrotose after we drew their blood to test their blood sugar. We wanted to get a baseline blood sugar on them first thing in the morning. Then we gave each of them 4 grams of Ambrotose in the form of Ambrotose complex, which has recently been changed to a 100-gram container, I'm really happy to say. And we found no change in blood sugar of any, not even one, of the human volunteers in this blood study. So we drew their blood, got a baseline blood sugar, gave them 4 grams of Ambrotose, gave the Ambrotose time to process, drew their blood again, and there was no change in blood sugar, not in one single human volunteer. Why? Because the sugars that are bad for your health are called disaccharide sugars. These sugars, or plant saccharides, that we are using in Ambrotose are not disaccharide sugars. They are monosaccharides and polysaccharides. So it's a different kind of plant saccharide. It affects your system differently. And there's another way to describe these, which is becoming more popular, by the way. So I'm going to give this to you in case you run into this so you won't be caught off guard or be confused. So another term that's being used is metabolic sugars and non-metabolic sugars. A metabolic sugar would be, again, a disaccharide, which could cause your blood sugar to go up and cause your insulin to go up. A non-metabolic sugar is a sugar which is used for, as an example, cellular communication, which does not cause your blood sugar to go up and does not cause your insulin to go up. So it is a non-metabolic sugar. So when I say metabolic, it's the bad stuff, okay? So table sugar, which most people know all too well. So we've tested this in human double-blind placebo-controlled study. We know that this is safe in that respect. We know it's safe in virtually every respect. We have been tracking this product since we made the first version of the product called Ambrotose Complex back in 1996. And during that time, tens of millions of containers have been sold in countries all over the world. We have been tracking this in terms of safety, and there simply are no safety issues. So we've also tested in terms of toxicity, where some people will say, well, could I use more than 4 grams if I wanted to? Yes, you can. How much more could I use? At what point does it become unsafe? Well, that's another frequently asked question I get, so here you go. We have tested Ambrotose to the equivalent of 50,000 milligrams per kilogram body weight. Now, I'll put that in simpler terms for you. If someone weighs, let's say, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 to perhaps 60 kilograms. Let's say maybe 65. I'm trying to do the math in my head as we go along here. Probably about 65 to 70 kilograms, actually. That would be the equivalent of about 3.5 tubs, 3.5 100-gram tubs of Ambrotose per day. Now, doing that test, going up to 50,000 milligrams per kilogram body weight, we came out with 0 evidence of toxicity. 0, absolutely nothing. Now, we stopped the test at that point because we know it's completely unrealistic for anyone to consume 3.5 tubs a day. Or, so why go higher? It would be foolish to do the test any higher. We found no evidence of toxicity. Part of this, and this is my theory, we don't have a study to prove this out, but part of this is because all approximately 6 trillion cells of your body all require glycans, and because there are some glycans, or commercially said glyconutrients, which cannot stay on a cell for more than 10 days. and you have a continuous turnover of glyconutrients. Since there are quite a number of cell receptors which cannot hold a glycan or glyconutrient for more than 10 days, clearly each of those cells has to replace their glyconutrients every 10 days. There are varying levels of retention, depends on the type of cell, and I won't confuse everybody with trying to go into every one of them. But the point is, not all cells can retain their glyconutrients for long periods of time. So then, what this tells us is that all of our cells are almost continuously needing a renewal, a refueling, if you will, of more glyconutrients or glycans. So it's my theory that the reason we see no toxicity is because you simply can't take enough into your body to meet all the needs of all the cells. Plus, the material itself is simply, well, it's just not toxic. It's just not a problem. Okay. So as far as safety goes, it's just not an issue. It's just not something we have to worry about. Now, in terms of function, let's go back to the cellular communication idea. If cellular communication is key to all function, and by the way, it has already been proven that it is, then virtually any function of the body might be able to benefit from having improved cellular communication. Doesn't that make sense to everyone? And in fact, I tell everyone worldwide that foundational to your health, I do not care who you are, what your gender is, what your age is, what your condition of health is, foundational to every single human being, and as far as we know from the science, every mammal, and studies have not been extended to reptiles and birds, so I can't talk to that because I don't have studies for it. But as far as every mammal is concerned, they all need these glycans for cellular communication, and the cells all over the body require it. This is huge, and this is the single most important thing. Let's do this for a moment. Let's say that someone came up to you and they said, I have in my hand the world's greatest vitamin C, a vitamin C that comes from a magical berry in Alaska or a magical berry in India, or who knows, whatever their puffery is, okay? And they give you this nonsense about how great this vitamin C is. And of course, worldwide, people know that vitamin C is important for your health. So then you buy into it and you take this world's greatest vitamin C and your health does not change to any significant degree. And you say, what's up with that? Well, what's up with it is that your body had to be able to recognize that you swallowed vitamin C. This is through cellular communication. Your body now needs to ask all the cells of the body, okay, guys, who needs vitamin C? And then the cells can go back and say, oh, yeah, I need some. And then they have to communicate through the digestive system for the appropriate enzymes to make sure that the vitamin C is properly assimilated and properly transported to the cells that require it and in the amount that the cells require it. This is cellular communication. So when another company comes up to you and says, we have the greatest this or the greatest that, yeah, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Puffery. But without cellular communication, if you do not have the right glycans at the right receptor sites at the right moment, guess what's not going to happen in your body? You are not going to have proper function, because all proper function is dependent on proper communication. It's that simple. Let me give you another example that can help you explain this technology to other people in a way that's super, super simple. Everyone in the world, I think, now has a cell phone. I mean, I have been to parts of Africa where people are literally starving to death, and yet they have cell phones. I am dumbfounded by that. But the point is, they do. So I think just about everybody has a cell phone around the planet now, and pretty much everybody basically understands how they work. The first thing that a cell phone needs to, and I know that in your countries you use the term mobile phone, but you know what I'm talking about. It is a cellular communication technology. That's the correct terminology to describe it, okay? So you know what I'm talking about. And In order for a cell phone to function, first of all, it has to have a battery charge. So think about your cells having a battery charge, and the battery charge will be vitamins and minerals. Well, the next thing is that that communication has to travel from your phone to a cell phone tower. If the cell phone tower is constructed correctly, that cell phone tower then is capable of relaying your message to someone else's cell phone. If that cell phone tower is not structured correctly, it does not have the capability of sending your communication from your cell phone to someone else's cell phone. Now, on top of your cells, coming out of your cells, you have these, squiggly, irregular looking things that are called cell surface receptor sites. They're really more than receptors. They're actually transceivers. And they are your cell's cell phone tower. Now, that cell phone tower can only be constructed correctly if it has all of its glycoproteins in place as needed. Now, that means there has to be 8 different glycans or glyconutrients that have bound to an amino acid, and that forms on your cell surface receptor site. If you have this, you can now have communication. If you are missing even a single glycan, even one, your cellular communication will not be accurate. And if your communication is not accurate, then your function will not function the way it was designed to function. So a lot of people like to oversimplify this, and although I like to keep things simple, I don't want you to oversimplify it to too great an extent. Some people then will say, oh, well then, Ambrotose, being the world's first and the world's only plant-based glycan product for cellular communication, then when I take Ambrotose, surely it will change any health condition in my body. Well, this is not the case. Your body is designed to respond to your health challenges. It can only respond if it's got the stuff to charge the battery, the vitamins and minerals, and if it has the glycans for cellular communication on each of your cell phone towers, on each of your cells. Now, if that is the case, now this combination of nutrition can communicate to all the appropriate areas. For instance, let's say that you've had a virus which has come into your system. It is well known, it's not in dispute, it is well known that zinc and vitamin C are both important for your immune system so that your immune system can respond to viral challenges. If you do not have sufficient levels of vitamin C or zinc, then your immune system may not be able to respond to a viral challenge. However, how will your immune system know that you have swallowed zinc or vitamin C? How will it know where to send the zinc or vitamin C? How will it know which cells have to be interacting with it, and so on? It does so through cellular communication. So then, whatever your goal is in terms of your health, if you simply want to be the healthiest person that you can possibly be, or if you have a health challenge, it doesn't matter. You have to have glycans, all of the glycans necessary for cellular communication, and you must have them in adequate levels, and you must have them on a regular basis, because this is not like a medication where you take this for 10 days and all is done and that's the end of it. Your cells, many of your cells, as I mentioned before, simply can't hold glycans on them for more than 10 days. Some of them can hold glycans for up to months, some weeks, some various numbers of days. The point is, you need to have glycans into your body every single day, every day. And by doing so, you are now going to increase the probability that your body will perform its functions efficiently as it was designed to do. So hopefully there's enough examples now so you now know what it is and how to explain how it works. So I'm going to give you some more information that I think is very important for you to know regarding Ambrotose. And by the way, our first chief of science is the man who discovered the functional component in the aloe vera plant, which is a type of mannose, but all mannoses are not created equal. Mannose from maple syrup will not function the same way as this particular mannose from aloe. So yes, they're both mannoses, but no, you will not get the same function. Okay. So when somebody says, oh, well, we have a product that contains, oh, I don't know, shiitake mushroom. So we have glycans too. Well, shiitake mushroom does, in fact, have glycans. It doesn't have the glycans that you need for cellular communication, but it does have glycans, and they're good for you. Okay, so shiitake mushroom is, in fact, good for you, all right? But that's not the same as having everything you need for cellular communication. Now, as we have tested our product scientifically, and Manitech has done so many scientific studies, including human double-blind placebo-controlled scientific studies, we know a lot of things about what Ambrotose can do for you. In fact, what we know from scientific study at this point, we know, of course, first, cellular communication. Now, we understood as of 2009, there was a scientific study published, and in fact, at a particular scientific symposium held in Belgium that year in 2009, there were 4 different studies presented, which were specifically about the Ambrotose product. Pretty amazing, really. And so, as of that time, we know for sure, prior to that time, it was a theory. And sometimes you're going to find things on the internet, by the way, folks. Anything which is posted on the internet today will still be on the internet 1,000 years from now, providing that there still is an internet 1,000 years from now. So my point is, anything which was posted erroneously about Ambrotose years ago is always going to be there. It will never go away. So keep that in mind. And if you find old information prior to 2009 that says Manitech doesn't know how, if cellular communication works or how it works, well, that was prior to 2009. We know. Okay, so we do know. And we also know, as an example, we have done seven brain studies with Ambrotose. Now that's extraordinary because there are a lot of companies out there selling brain products, and it's all sold by puffery, not through science. And they'll tell you, oh, well, our brain product will help your memory, it'll help you this, it'll help you that. And that's all very nice, and perhaps some of it might even be true. But at Manitech, we do science. And I'm telling you right now, we know. This is not a question. This is not speculation. It's not puffery, not a claim. We know that Ambrotose improves cognitive function in human beings, or improves brain function in human beings. We know it improves memory. It improves concentration. It improves attentiveness. It even improves mood. And there's a lot of people who need their mood to be elevated, lots of people planet-wide. It decreases irritability. We also know, beyond the 7 brain studies that we did, because we have 12 human double-blind placebo-controlled studies posted right now, and we know that it supports immune function. And I've already explained to you in part how that works so that you understand essentially, basically how that works. So Ambrotose does not by itself kill a bacteria. It doesn't kill a virus. It doesn't kill bad guy cells. That's not what it does. But rather, it facilitates function of the immune system so that the immune system can finally do what it was designed to do. So if you have all of your glyconutrients in place, your immune system now can have the communication which can help it to function the way it was designed to function and go after those unwanted cells in your body, okay? And that's very important because the one thing you don't want is to be taking some that goes after cells randomly. You don't want to attack healthy cells. That would be a very bad idea. We also know from scientific study that Ambrotose supports digestive system function. We found in a study that we were doing on gastrointestinal health, and what we found was that probiotic bacteria, and I know everyone's heard the term probiotic. Probiotics are a type of bacterium which are, are healthful and necessary for the health not only of your intestinal tract, but for the health of your whole body through your immune system. In fact, most scientists believe that approximately 70% of all immune function in your entire body originates in your gastrointestinal tract. So it's extremely important to have that probiotic function that is functioning at its optimal levels for your immune function, as well as your digestive health, digestive function, gastrointestinal health overall. We know this because Ambrotose glyconutrients, or glycans, are known to be prebiotic. A prebiotic is the food that a probiotic consumes in order to stay healthy and to multiply, which of course you want your probiotics to do. Probiotic are living bacterial organisms. They need to be fed like all living organisms. And what's very, very interesting is that when these probiotics consume the prebiotics, such as the Ambrotose glyconutrients, the reaction is actually to facilitate function of these glyconutrients. It's quite amazing. And that's what's known as a symbiotic response, of course. So we know that Ambrotose is foundational to your health. Once again, it doesn't matter what your health goal is. You may be absolutely healthy, or perhaps you think you're absolutely healthy. Uh, Very often there are things going on in the body, and while your body is doing its job to attempt to protect you, you have no symptoms. For instance, if you were to be exposed to the flu today, you would not have any symptoms of the flu for many days. But the flu would be in your body. You simply wouldn't know it was in your body. You wouldn't know it yet, okay? Well, your body works that way in virtually any kind of immune challenge, so that you very often do not know that it's present until such time as your immune system is no longer able to cope with it, and then you know it's present. So the idea is, whether you think you're healthy or whether you know you're not healthy, it doesn't matter. You need to be taking Ambrotose every day, which is foundational then for virtually every aspect of your health: brain health, immune health, digestive health, et cetera, to every area of your health. And we know this by scientific study. One of the great things about Manatech is that we have spent tens of millions of dollars to to study this information, verify this information. Now, inside of Ambrotose, you have two ingredients which are proprietary to Manatech. Now, the rest of the complex are things that other companies could obtain if they wanted to, but there are two ingredients which make up more than 50% of the total of the powder in that container, which are Manatech's ingredients exclusively, and no one else can ever have, which means that even if Ambrotose did not have patent protection, it is still protected by these two ingredients that no one else can have, which are absolutely key to Ambrotose's function. Without these two ingredients, Ambrotose could not perform its function. And these two ingredients are called Manopole, which is the trade name for mannose from aloe, and the other is called premium arabinogalactan. Arabinogalactan comes from two types of trees in the United States, or in the North American continent, we'll say it that way, because these trees, I'm sure, are in Canada as well. But these two trees provide us with arabinogalactan. Now, arabinogalactan has a series of glyconutrients, or glycans, in it already. There's one company that makes arabinogalactan. It makes two forms. It makes a standard form that they will sell to anyone, and then it makes a premium arabinogalactan, which by legal agreement it will only sell to Manatech. This premium form has been tested in scientific study and has extraordinary and powerful immune system properties all by itself. Then, of course, there is mannopol. And as far as I'm concerned, mannopol is the king of glycans. There is no plant saccharide, no glycan, no glyconutrient, which, in my opinion, is more powerful, more necessary, more effective than what is trade named as mannopol. Mannopol was that initial discovery from the aloe vera plant, and the scientist involved, who was our first chief of science, he was supposed to find out what is it in aloe vera that makes aloe vera do what everyone knows it does. Well, he found it, and he was surprised that it was a plant glycan or a plant sugar. He was very surprised because he thought it would be a protein. Back in those days, everyone thought it was a protein. And as he finds this, he then pulls it from the aloe vera gel, and it begins to destabilize almost immediately. And in fact, in 72 hours of exposure to oxygen and or sunlight, it becomes completely inert. It does nothing. It's useless. So the next step is he had to find out why it breaks down, and then he had to find out how to stop it from breaking down so that it could be used in a supplement that would that could be more than 3 days old. Okay, and so he found this out, and it was initially patented. Eventually, that patent expired, as patents do expire. But we own the process by which it is made. We own the product, and no one in the world, no one on this planet, has mannopol except Mannatech. And that's the way it is by exclusive legal agreement. A mannopol is very different, and by itself, it is very, very important because of its huge immune system properties all by itself. Mannopol is mannose which is processed in a very particular way that no other mannose from aloe is processed. If you look at ordinary mannose from aloe, you will find that it has an atomic weight of between 380,000 Daltons and 400,000 Daltons. Dalton was an English scientist who first introduced the atomic theory, and that's why the atomic weight is named after him. So then, ordinary mannose is, so you and I, we have no science, we have no laboratories, we're just taking mannose from aloe. It's 380,000 to 400,000 Daltons. Mannopol is 1,600,000 Daltons, 4 times greater atomic weight than standard mannose from aloe. So other companies say to you, oh, we have mannose too, we're just like Ambrotose. No, you're not. Not even close. About 1/4 of what we have. So then, with this in mind, real ace mannan is the scientific term, and ace mannan scientifically is mannose from aloe that has an atomic weight in excess of 1 million Daltons. Well, in fact, we are in excess, and none of our competitors are in excess of 1 million Daltons. Therefore, we are the only company in the world that can offer you mannose from aloe, which is true ace mannan. And that's another important factor about our product, Ambrotose. So when you're talking to people around the world and you tell them this is such an amazing, astounding product, it is more astounding scientifically than you can even begin to know. So we have this amazing concentration of atomic weight, 4 times higher than ordinary mannose from aloe. No one can touch us. And mannopol is exclusive to Mannatech. So again, mannopol and arabinogalactan premium form combined make up 51% of an Ambrotose container, meaning that even if we had no patent, we still cannot be copied, we cannot be duplicated. There will never be anything like Ambrotose. So that's super, super important to know as far as I'm concerned. So then as we look at all of the advantages of Ambrotose, and reiterating once again, no matter what your health goal is, I don't care what kind of products you're currently taking, I don't care what kind of misrepresentation and puffery they've used. And a lot of our competitors will use secondhand science and make their consumer think it's their own science. As an example, they may say something like, we have this amazing vitamin C, blah, 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 and everyone knows that there's thousands of studies on vitamin C. Well, there are thousands of studies on vitamin C, but the question is, how many studies do they have on their own product? And the answer in almost every case is going to be none. So what we are talking to you about is products that we have studied, our products, that we've done science, real science, tens of millions of dollars worth of science, and that we have even done human double-blind placebo-controlled study to prove our science. So when we talk to you about our products and their benefits to your health, it's not puffery, it's not clever marketing, clever advertising, it's science. Folks, whoever you are, wherever you live, what your gender, what is your age, what is your health condition, what other kind of products you're taking, all of that is irrelevant if you do not have accurate, complete cellular communication. Now, you cannot know, because what we know about scientific study, you cannot know for certain if you are getting sufficient glyconutrient or glycan in your daily modern diet. In fact, the science indicates that it is highly probable that you do not get sufficient levels. Then you have one intelligent decision to make, only one. And that is to start taking Ambrotose every day. And you do this to have the healthiest possible foundation of your health, no matter whatever else you are doing. So folks, since you, most of you listening right now, are Manatech associates, I'm sure, this means that you've got a really big responsibility. A responsibility to tell everyone you know about this really astounding, unique, proprietary technology that no one else can have. I don't care what anyone else says to you. Oh, we've got mushrooms and we have this and we have that. That's all very nice. And some of it may even be beneficial. But scientifically, I can tell you that what everyone needs is Ambrotose. Everything else is secondary. Everything else. This is the beginning. This is the foundation. Everyone needs to be on Ambrotose every day, no exceptions. And perhaps in a future time, we might talk more about the differences between the Ambrotoses. There is an advanced, there is a complex. I personally use complex every day because it has about double the amount of manopole that we find in advanced. Now, advanced has other benefits as well, so there are different benefits, but I personally use complex. The choice is yours. Perhaps in a future broadcast, and I hope that I will be able to do many, many of these broadcasts for you in the future to help you with your health and to help you help others with their health. That is the goal of our company. That is certainly my goal. So with that, having said all of that, I'm going to turn this back over to Sinead, and I hope that all of you are going to have a super wonderful weekend down there in Australasia. I wish I was with you this weekend. Sinead?
Thank you, Steve.